You know, age is coming for me. And what a unique place in life, if you think about it. When you're young, you wonder what it's like when you're 30. Oh, well, you're really old then. Or when you're 40, you can't even fathom that, you know, and where will I be? Will I have my own house? Will I have kids? All life is ahead of you. And then you get older, and as you get older, and, you know, reality kind of wrings out a little bit of the truth of your, you know, fantasy of what life might be as you get older. You have these soft goals, and then the reality goals are the ones that, you know, get more of the focus. You know, the soft goals are like, you know, like I said earlier, will I have kids? Will I do all this stuff? But here's the thing. The thing is that, I had a friend of mine over there, he just knows it. The thing is that right now at my age, I'm healthy. That's the thing you grasp on, you know. I left today to go do the work at the nonprofit stuff, and I realized I could breathe pretty good. You know, I feel good. My nose is clear. You know, I'm not having any issues here. My heel is a little sore. I have plantar fasciitis. Fasciitis? My heel hurts. But it's getting better. It's just kind of like a moment. But I got to tell you, there is a part of me that getting older makes me a little nervous. I can't say that I have any fear about getting older. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I was very energized through my life, and I checked off a lot of boxes. I did a lot of things that made me happy, and I had a lot of experiences. You know, I didn't focus on building a pile of anything, pile of money, pile of houses, pile of cars. Well, no, I lie. I do have a pile of surfboards. But what makes me at least a little uneasy, let's just put it that way, is the fact that what if I do live till 90, 95? Well, heck, what if I live to 85? Well, if I live to 85, that only gives me, 21 years left in my life. What's that going to be like physically? You know, I just got through doing a great podcast, which I'm going to release probably in about another week with a friend of mine. His name is James. We were talking about that, and then I saw another podcast that said we are going to die of some disease, every single one of us. And you know what's unique about that statement is that, you know, sometimes have you ever watched any of those videos of, like, you know, what actors died of, or you know, those kind of things? It just shows a picture of them, what they do, and how old they were when they died, and they died of something. Of course, there are some of those videos that are, you know, ones that, you know, commit self-harm to the end. But 95% of the people that they show that live till 75, 78, 82, 85, 89, 90, 94, all died of a disease of sorts. So it's like spinning the big wheel of, like, what am I going to die from? Very, very few people get to just fade. My grandmother, my step-grandmother faded at 94, which I thought was unique. She had a couple of ailments, nothing too bad, but one night she had dinner, and after dinner, her, my father, and my stepmother went and sat down to watch TV. My dad said she sat down in her favorite little chair, and she's watching TV. And at one point, he had looked over, and maybe she had fallen asleep, you know, which is fine. You're 94, you're falling asleep, you just got through eating. You know, and the tradition at the house is dinner is about 8 o'clock, right? So when it was time to go to bed, he nudges her and goes, Chicky, let's... Chicky? That was her nickname. She was gone. No convulsing, no nothing. My dad said didn't hear anything. You know, no quirking of the body or nothing. She just God hit the dimmer for her. Zzz, she went out. And but I've come to find out that's very far and few between. And so it's almost like I look down this list of the things that I have going through right now and go, well, which one of these am I going to die from? I have a funny feeling that the end of me is going to be my lungs, my respiratory system, only because I've had the challenges that I've had. And if you've been hanging around with me long enough on the internet, you know about my coughing and my asthma, even though it's really under control and it's low-level asthma. But there's a part of me that thinks that. Of course, nobody expects the unexpected, which would be getting physically hurt at something. You know, you're outside, you get into an accident, or if I'm out here surfing and something happens, I fall down, get held down, drown, or God forbid, a shark. Though I think that would be a really cool story, though. If I got eaten by a shark, that would be quite the story that my family would be able to tell. It's just, instead of dying of like a really bad disease or something like that, or watching somebody whittled down to nothing with the unfortunate run of luck of becoming unhealthy and into something that's terminal. But that'd be some hell of a headline. Jeeves gets eaten by a shark. Would have been over pretty fast, but anyhow. So I thought about that today only because Robert Redford just passed away, and he had said something, one of these interviews, fairly recent. I'd have to say he's probably in his 60s or early 70s when he had this interview where he talked about, well, I wish that I could do this. I used to be able to do that, but I can't do that. I wish, some of it had to do with age regret. On the other hand, just to balance this really cohesively, there are a lot of people don't make it to half of my age for so many different reasons. So it might sound like a very, I don't know, there's a part of me that feels pretty kind of shallow for thinking about that when there are people who are suffering right now and with a lot of illness and stuff like that may not have a chance, or maybe getting little boosts at a time that their life is expectancy is moving on, but they have to always be in the back of their head because they're in treatment or something. Here I am saying, oh geez, I made it all the way and I'm wondering how I'm going to fade. But that's just the humanity in me, and speaking of manatees, the other thing that's really kind of trippy is the fact that I've gained the weight that I've gained in the last 20 years. Not a lot, but enough for me to be kind of like, oh, I can't surf like I used to, but sometimes I blame it on the weight. So I decided, I'm just going to do the best I can. I'm going to eat well, but I kind of liken it to a manatee joke that I know, which is I swim all day or surf, I eat sea cabbage, and I'm still fat. That's just what it's going to be. Anyhow, I just wanted to put that out there and see if anybody else kind of thinks the same way. Is it, worrying a little? Well, worrying, we all know worrying is something that can cause anxiety. I'm not really stressed about it, but it's something that I think about often, especially when my parents are still alive, or my mother and my stepfather. They're both 88, 87, or 87, 86. And Mom's doing well. Slower, hip replacement, couple of knee replacements, but she's cooking it. My stepfather physically is doing well, but the dementia is keeping him at bay for certain things. But he is the happiest, most kindest gentleman you could ever meet, that at least even in his state of being slowing down, dementia and stuff, it just amplifies that very chill, loving, caring person. Maybe that's a lucky situation, perhaps, that he's having that. But for myself, I'm very fortunate. Every moment I get to come and hang out at my friend's house, like I'm doing right now, and hear the sounds of the waves and stuff, even though I look out there and go, man, when I was a kid, I'd be out there charging right now. I'd be diving, Now I'm like, meh. Or I'm like, I'm still grateful that I had the opportunity, but I still think about that. Look at that, the sun is peeking through. Yeah, it's almost the sunset. You want me to show you the sunset? I'll show you the sunset. Stand by. Here we go. How's that? Is that cool beans? Yeah. My friend has a lovely little house, with a small deck. But you know the saying, it's not the size of the deck that counts. It's the sunset you can get from it. All right. If you're still here, type in I'm still here. See ya.